question at this time takes us back to the Old Testament, and really the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. And one has asked, why has the old law changed if God himself does not change? And specifically in reference to the Sabbath day, why the Sabbath day has changed, or if it has, if God has changed, and so forth. And so you think about that for a moment. Sometimes the difference between the old law and the new law confuses people. And then they wonder, well, why is it that this has changed? Why has this happened? And then again, our friend has made the comment, since God does not change, then why did the law change? Well, really you have two issues going on right there. The first one is that God does not change. And in fact, in Malachi 3 and verse 6, he says that. He says, I am the Lord, I change not. Malachi 3 and verse 6. God has not changed at all. Yet there is a change of the law. And someone says, well, how is that possible? Well, I'm going to tell you. The unchangeable God we just talked about planned on it. And whenever you look in the book of Jeremiah chapter 31, it is Jeremiah 31, verse 31, down through verse 34, where God speaks through Jeremiah and tells the people at that time that there is going to be a change. In Jeremiah chapter 31, and we begin reading in verse number 31, he says here, behold, the days cometh, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant. Notice that. I will make a new covenant. It's a new one with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. He says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord. But this will be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts, and he says, I will write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. They shall no more teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for they shall know me. He says, from the least of them to the greatest, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. That's a prophecy from Jeremiah 31, 31 to 34. When you look into the book of Hebrews, in the book of Hebrews chapter 8, and about verse 5 down through verse 12, you'll see the fulfillment of that very prophecy. And in fact, the quotation of that prophecy saying that this has come to pass. So someone says, how can there be a change of the law whenever God himself doesn't change? Well, it's very easy. God promised it, God planned it, God made it possible. Another thing is this, that whenever we think about a change of the law, it becomes necessary because of Christ. In the book of Hebrews, which we referred to a moment ago, Hebrews chapter 7 speaks about the fact that Christ, Jesus Christ, is a high priest. And he says he's high priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek, and that's made clear in a number of places in Hebrews. For example, Hebrews chapter 5, 7, and on down through. But you go to chapter 7, and he says here that the priesthood being changed. Verse 12, Hebrews 7. For the priesthood being changed, there's also made of necessity a change also of the law. There's a necessary change of the law because it is Christ who is now the high priest. The priesthood was changed. And so it is not at all inconsistent. It's not at all strange. It's not at all some kind of a mystery to think about an unchangeable God who changed something in his law or in his will. He has done that all the way through and made the necessary changes at times when they were necessary according to him. Whether it be the law from Adam and Eve, whether it be the law with Noah, Moses, and on down through. And so what I'm subject to and what you're subject to today is not the law of Moses, not that old law or old covenant which included Sabbath keeping, but rather we are under the new law today, the new covenant, which does not include Sabbath keeping. But in fact, we find disciples worshiping on the first day of the week. Acts 2 and verse 42 says so, Acts 20 and verse 7, etc. And that's what we're under today. So let's respect the new covenant. Let's respect the unchangeable God who gave it to us. Respect our high priest and follow this law all of our days.